I'm Gabriella Schwarz, news editor at Flipboard. We sat down with Janet Napolitano, former governor of Arizona, secretary of Homeland Security, and now president of the University of California. President Napolitano, you're such an inspiration, and we're so happy to bring your voice to Flipboard. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you.
One of the reasons we're talking today is because of how the UC system is using Flipboard. You have magazines on innovation and healthcare and sustainability, particularly on innovation and technology. Those are such huge aspects of these campuses. What role do you want the school to have in the larger world?
Well, we are centers of innovation now. I want to expand on that role, and we're centers in a lot of different ways. Number one, we're a research university, and the depth and breadth of research done at all 10 of our campuses, plus 3 of the national labs, 5 academic health centers, and the Ag and Natural Resources Division. I mean, you can name almost any topic, and we will have research going on in it, I would bet you. So doing basic research, and I want to just say basic because that kind of research really has been outsourced to universities in the United States. It's too hard, it's too expensive for private companies really to do. So when you see how our country's economy is formed, and it's an innovation-based economy, you can't innovate unless you have something to innovate from, and that's basic research. Number 2, our education mission. So we're educating the future generation of innovators, and they can be the scientists in the lab, they can be the entrepreneurs, they can be the people involved in design, they can be people thinking about marketing and the business side of innovation, and all of that going into having the next generation of entrepreneurs and innovators in California, which is the center of that activity for the United States. And then number 3, we have a public service mission. And so we do a lot of innovation in areas that may not be particularly lucrative, but that have a really high social value. So I'll give you an example. At Berkeley National Lab, they developed a particular type of stove that uses very little firewood to be used in Darfur and in the Sudan. Why? Because the area is becoming deforested, and women were having to leave their campsites and go a long way to get firewood in order to cook. And that was very dangerous. And of course, you have the environmental issues associated with that. So the Darfur stove is about this big by this big, and it allows a family to cook their whole dinner with very little fuel. It's not something we're making money off of, but it is an innovation that has a public service purpose.
That's great. So we're close to Berkeley right now,
Yes.
and one of the biggest issues here is the disagreement between the UC system and the state over funding. So you won't be able to admit additional California residents in the coming year. Who do you think is most hurt by that?
Well, we'd love to increase enrollment of students, and we've been doing that over the past years without increased funding from the state. So who gets hurt? At a certain point, the students get hurt and their families get hurt. This is a wonderful public university. We want it to be as open as possible, but we can't provide the quality of education that we are known for providing if we just keep adding students without more funding. So we're having a disagreement now, and whether the state should put in some more money. I think they should, but if they can't, whether we should be allowed to raise tuition.
College affordability has been a big push for President Obama. Is there more that the federal government could do to help in this fight?
Well, I hope so. And the president has been very forthright, particularly about support for community colleges. My point is that a large percentage of those community college students will want to transfer to get a 4-year degree. They need to be able to go somewhere. In California, they go either here or to the Cal State University system. And we want the ability for them to be able to meet their expectations and to have a seat. So again, in a generation that needs as much education as it can get in an economy that's going to be based on innovation and creativity, we're a real engine for that. So we need the support to reach as many students as we can.
the world disagreements have pretty big implications on the students here. And I know diversity has been a big push for you, both in the student body and with professors. Do you feel responsibility to those communities?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, our fastest growing group of students are Latino students. And in fact, last year and this year, we will admit more Latino students than white students to the University of California. So that will be the first time in history. And that's partially just a reflection of the tremendous demographic change that's occurring. And then, of course, African American students, very, very important for us. And then developing the graduate student diversity. So we develop that faculty pipeline that's so very, very important. So I feel a deep responsibility there to make sure that, again, this is a public university, our doors are as open as they can be.
You mentioned Latino students, and on immigration, you worked on this issue very closely as a border state governor in D.C. And now, I think I saw 42% of your undergrads are first generation, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I guess, has this job shaped your thinking on immigration at all?
It's part of to me, it's a great aspect of immigration. So many families immigrate to the United States because they want something better for their children. And they sacrifice everything. They leave home, they leave family, they leave good jobs a lot of times to come to this country. And, they're going to be, many times strangers in a strange land, outside their culture, outside their network of friends, et cetera. Oftentimes in very low-wage jobs. Why? Because the opportunities in the United States remain the best opportunities on the globe. So when I see that 42% of our students are first-generation students, you really see how the university plays into fulfilling that dream. And I don't know of any other public research university that's in our category that comes close to 42%.
We talked a little bit before you met with veterans earlier today, and the issues that we're seeing with veteran unemployment across the country, I'm sure you see on this campus as well. Veteran unemployment is much higher than the national average. Can schools or public universities in particular do anything to combat that trend?
Well, I think so. I mean, first of all, we want to make the transition from active duty service into student life as easy as possible. And usually for our students who are veterans, who are the ones who have just recently left the service, usually they've had to go to community college for a year or so to take calculus if they've forgotten calculus, and who remembers calculus, right? So, or some other classes, get ready, and also because of the way the school calendar works. And then they join us in the fall, and they're ready to go. I mean, these are young men and women. They're older. Many of them already have families. They want to get their education. They want to get out, and so they're very, very good students. So we want to work on that transition from active duty life to student life, and realize that they have, as all different student groups have, somewhat different issues, and in part because they are older, they have other responsibilities, and then work with them on career placement, and really making sure they're getting really good advice about what they do when they've graduated with a University of California degree and time in the military. These folks, if they don't want to go on to graduate school, they're ready for the job market.
Where did the seed for wanting to be involved in higher education get planted, I guess?
Oh, probably when I was a little kid. My dad was in higher education. He was an anatomy professor at the medical school at the University of New Mexico. So I kind of grew up with that as the dinner table conversation, and was, people around, faculty members and the like all the time. So I always had that idea. And then, of course, when I was governor, it was a time of tremendous population growth in Arizona. Particularly in the college-age population, and we were building things right and left, and we saw the great expansion of Arizona State University. We built a second medical school in Arizona, just did a lot of activity there.
We encourage you to follow the University of California on Flipboard through their magazines about healthcare, sustainability, and innovation.